When I was a kid growing up in Pennsylvania, I had a huge, loud Italian-American family. Think The Godfather meets Moonstruck with the little big fat Greek wedding thrown in. You get the picture. My grandparents built a house in Allentown after World War II on the GI Bill, and it was often full of family. On Sundays and holidays, they would bring in the picnic table to extend the long dining room table, and we would all squeeze together for meals. Pop-Pop and I celebrated our birthdays together on Thanksgiving. Each year, Cousin Doc would stand behind me, place his hands on my head and announce, I was the first person to do that, because he was. Cousin Doc delivered me from my teenage parents. I was born to that house, lived there as a tiny baby, spent summers and weekends there, and countless occasions. It was home to me. The kitchen was the best place to be, where all the good gossip happened, and you got to taste whatever was bubbling on the stove. I learned to peel and cut garlic by the time I was 7, right there at the kitchen table, listening to their stories while reruns of Bonanza and I Love Lucy played in the background. Nana and her sisters spoke a turn-of-the-century Sicilian dialect. We all learned to curse in their language. For example, Baja mi kulu means kiss my kulu. They were the generation that made sure the kids learned English instead of the heavily accented Italian of our ancestors. By far, the best time of year was Christmas. The conversation about what to make for the holiday meal would start as soon as the dishes were done on Thanksgiving night. What kind of roast? A prime rib, a crown roast of pork? How many pounds of pasta for 20 people? And Nana's sauce was legendary. It was made from homegrown Roma tomatoes, blanched and peeled by the bushel there in the kitchen, and then put through the food mill and cooked down with garlic and fresh Italian herbs. And later, Nana would cook sausage, hamburger, veal, ground pork, throw it all in the tomato sauce in the largest roasting pans on hand, and then they'd all go in the oven and simmer for hours, sometimes up to 2 days, until the sauce was rich and deep dark red. The smell was out of this world. And there would be pie, apple pie, pumpkin pie, shoe-fly pie, and more cookies than you could count. The cookies were a tradition, and every woman who came to the open house on Christmas Day brought a platter. Plate after plate would fill the dining room table as different families would visit. After a while, the trays became as familiar as the faces. We knew which was baked by Great Aunt Annette or Great Aunt Sandy, and of course, Nana. In a way, they were as unique as a signature and as beautiful as each of them. Back in the kitchen, Nana and her sisters brutally evaluated the flavor, crunchiness, and look of each contribution. Aunt Annette's kiffles tasted like rolled cardboard. Cousin Carol's ginger snaps were bitter. Caca. When I was in my early 20s, I decided to try making my own Christmas cookie tray. I requested copies of favorite recipes. From Aunt Sandy, I made the powdered sugar dusted pecan rolls. From Nana, I made her amazing almond fingers dipped in dark chocolate, my father's favorite. I knew from the kitchen gossip to stay away from Aunt Annette's recipes because they were all too dry. And everyone made their own version of a chocolate chip Toll House cookie. So did I. Mine had a toasted almond placed on top of each. In that first year, I shyly brought my carefully chosen holiday plate topped with homemade cookies, artfully displayed and wrapped tightly with plastic wrap, to Nana's house. All the women surprisingly praised my efforts, complimenting each cookie. Nana and Aunt Sandy both proudly announced to anyone who would listen that this plate was made by Alexandra. The next couple of Christmases followed the same routine, with much encouragement for my contribution to the dining room table. Then, one year, the tides turned. Almost as though by advance agreement, Nana and Aunt Sandy both critiqued my cookies, as I had heard them do with others my whole life. They asked if I had used real butter in the chocolate chips. Did I forget the salt in the pecan rolls? They wondered why the peanut butter cookies were a little dry. I was crestfallen. I'd followed their recipes perfectly, just like I had in the few years before, and I thought, baja mi kulu. Then, it hit me. My beloved elders were no longer treating me like a child. I had been embraced and initiated into my family's world of women by this cookie critique rite of passage. Nothing made me prouder. Several years later, after I met my now husband, Mark, I met his whole family for the first time at Christmas. Of course, with a Christmas tray in hand as I entered his parents' home near Buffalo, New York. When I saw the number of cookies his mother Rita baked each year and her beautifully laid out cookie tray, I knew in my heart my family had doubled. She happily accepted my contribution to her dining room table, and we immediately began swapping recipes, especially the one for her peanut butter cup tarts. And when our oldest daughter, Kira, moved out of state to start her career, she took the family recipes with her. She doesn't wait for Christmas to bake cookies. She believes in celebrating all year long. And last year, our younger daughter, Taya, she was able to help a lot. It gives me a new kind of holiday joy to share this special tradition with the next generation of our family. And this year, as I do every year, I remember each of our powerful women ancestors as I mix each dough and roll each ball, sprinkle colored sugar, and dip in chocolate.